Happy New Year! Yes! 2020! Hunger Games, we're going to get into Hunger Games 2020. Now we can say 2020.
Hunger Games. Oh,
2020.
I get it. Yeah.
What is going on in Iran? Toby?
Or Iraq.
Bad guys
Or
are
Iraq,
dying.
yeah.
And all of the above.
That's right. Hey, Bob Fu from ChinaAid.org is coming on for our interview. Super.
He's going to break it down.
Yeah, fantastic.
He's going to break it down.
Break down China, Hong Kong.
Pastor Wang Yi.
Yeah.
Early Rain Covenant Church. Hong Kong. NBA. Trump's trade deal.
It was good.
Yeah.
Pastor Toby, Chuck Knox, the Water Boy. It is so good to be in the studio.
Happy New Year.
Our first show of the year. It's great. I'm excited. You know?
I'm excited too.
All the lovely Christmas gifts that we got from our club members.
Oh, man.
Man.
Most importantly, all the people that joined.
Wow.
Yeah. We
there's
had
a lot
our
of new
biggest
people.
club membership month
That was-
in
Hey,
December.
y'all.
That was Merry Christmas to us.
Welcome to the club.
We are
Happy
out of
to have you.
pints. We have no more pints anymore.
They're
so
gone.
I got to figure out something else to give to our
Tumblers.
new club
Remember,
members.
if you become a member, every time we do a show, as technology, allowing,
You
Yeah.
get
and Lord
live
willing,
access.
you get live access to the recording of the show. There are people right now, members of Cross Politic,
Yep.
that are watching us. God bless you.
Yes.
While we record the show.
They get to see what happens
Record.
during the breaks.
And they're like, they get to watch
Yeah.
it all the way through.
Yeah.
And some of them even ask us questions here and there during
Yep.
prep time.
Yep.
Yep.
And we tell them what we think. I mean, I don't know.
So
how
we call it backstage access.
You know what they
That's
ask?
what we call it. Backstage access.
You know
so
what
if
they
you
ask?
become a member, you get backstage access.
They
you
asked,
go.
what is Pastor Toby's favorite stinger? That's what they asked. And so I get to
He
do
tells
things
us,
like
hey,
that.
hey,
Yeah.
answer that question. So, hey, guys, we're going to be at G3 here in a couple weeks. If you guys are not signed
Yes.
up,
Ooh.
we're going to be there. We're going to
In
be doing a live
Atlanta.
show with Ali Stuckey and Rachel Jankovic.
Yes.
And we're going to be doing a show at our booth with Pastor Doug Wilson. Yes. We're going to teach you guys how to Dougie. We have all sorts of
Just stop. Doug Wilson
at G3.
is going to be with us at G3.
Yep. We're bringing him out to be with us at
yes.
G3, and our show with Doug is going to be Worship is Warfare,
Yep.
Yeah.
and just super.
That's kind of just going to be our topic anyway, though.
the whole,
Oh yeah, the whole deal.
Super excited to fellowship with Josh Bice,
Yes.
Tom Askell. Our boy Tom going to be there.
Is Vody going to be
Vody's
there?
going to be
Vody's
there.
gonna be there. I
It's going
think-
to be a great time.
Talk to
talked
him
to-
about his problems, his issues.
Oh, he got some issues?
Oh yeah, no, he does his nails. Gets his nails done.
He does a
Remember this?
manicure.
He does manicures.
Fingernail polish?
Not like manicures and pedicures.
All right, we got to move on. We can't.
Wait,
we
wait,
can't hang
wait.
out.
I'm gonna confront
Tom
him.
Askell's supposed to be there. He's getting
praise
healed up.
God.
I want him
James
to stay
White?
home. James White is going to be.
Dr. James.
I saw some of the stuff he's preparing on Facebook and Twitter. It's going to be
It's
crazy.
going to be great.
Yeah, I'm
That's
looking
exciting.
forward to that.
So, hey, that's in a couple weeks at G3, and we're also going to just be doing all sorts of
And
stuff.
then we're
all over the
road
conference.
tripping.
Oh,
And then we're doing a East Coast tour up through Nashville, DC, Philly, and possibly NYC, New York. And so if you guys
We'll
want to
see.
reach out to us, if we can kind of schedule something while it fits the schedule and everything.
can we talk about some of the people that we want to get?
Can we that we have gotten
Can we
and
say?
want to get?
Can we say? Let's say who we. Can we say who we already got?
Do we want?
I-
we
I
can say who we
You
can
wanna
say.
say-
No.
You want
Okay.
to say no?
I
So I
say-
can't say like the big name. Okay,
but,
all right.
but while we're on the trip, we're going to be doing some live feeds.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're also going to be doing some we're going to be uploading stuff to the member portal as we go, right?
Yep.
That's right.
And
Yep.
so if you're a member, you can be like checking in and seeing what we're doing along
Yep.
the way.
That's right.
And then, of course, we'll be recording stuff for shows. They'll come out later on.
Yep.
It's going to be a ride.
We're pretty excited about that trip, and man, this could not be possible without our club members.
So
And
we-
that's why we need many more club members.
Yeah, we do.
To hit what we want to do this next year, and including what we're doing with our Fight Laugh Feast conference, October
that's-
1st through the 3rd. You guys can actually go to our website and sign up for the email list for our October conference. It's our first conference.
Cross Politics is doing
Guys,
a conference.
We are doing all this in faith.
We are doing a conference.
We're doing a freaking conference. It's incredible.
Oh, my
In
gracious.
Nashville, Tennessee, we got a great venue out there in downtown, surrounded by hotels, restaurants, everything.
October 1, 2, and 3,
Yep.
2020. Be in Nashville.
Yeah.
We are going to be there.
Yeah.
Whether anyone else shows up or
Just
not.
let them know. We're
That's
going to
gonna
do it.
be-
And
Yeah.
we're going to hang out. We're going to have a good time.
And
We're
if
gonna
you're a
party.
club member, you get a discount. So you need to sign up and join our club now because you get a discount at our
I
conference.
just got to say the venue looks amazing.
Yeah. You're
Fantastic.
excited
Yeah,
about that.
I'm excited. Oh, I'm
Fantastic.
talking about Sabbath dinner too. Have we talked? Okay, we haven't
We're
talked
gonna
about
get to-
There's going to
Okay.
be feasting.
It's going to be
Yes.
the most unique Fight Laugh Feast conference ever. That's all I'm saying.
We're just going to do what we do.
We're gonna make Fight Laugh Feast great again.
Oh, boy.
Also want to
amazing.
thank all of our
Yes.
sponsors.
Yes.
You people have blessed us immensely. Samaritan Ministries,
Classical Conversations, One Hat Technologies.
which does not make hats. They do technology.
That fits all
Moscow
different
Family
platforms.
Dentistry,
Yeah.
Man,
Ben Bowen.
you guys don't even know how much they've helped us. I'm just telling you that.
have something wrong with your teeth and go
go.
see with
Just get it cleaning.
Just go see him.
Go get it clean.
If your teeth are clean, go get another cleaning.
Story Family Medicine.
Oh, they're
just,
fantastic.
They're just jumping on, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
just jumping on.
Grant, Story
Yep.
Family Medicine.
We'll have more about that
Okay.
sponsorship here. Anyways,
Of course, Tennecore. Tennecore's been riding with us for a
Yeah.
while.
Speaking
Yeah.
of which, they just updated their Velo holster.
Did they?
Gabe, can you contact them and say that we need one of those models for me for my Glock 43X?
yeah, I can.
Because I need to test it out on the show so we can talk and show how
That's
good
right.
they
And
really
Remember,
are.
that's the only place you can get that cool patch.
Yeah,
you got that patch
cool
on
patch
there?
right there.
Yeah, yes.
Bang.
And
place
then
get a Tennecore.
Canna Press is so kind to us. They give us free books.
You know what?
And-
They feed my need.
They
Yeah.
people. They
Yeah,
people.
I need books.
And then of course NSA. NSA.
Yeah, we
is
love
just
New St. Andrews
We love
College.
NSA.
NSA.edu. All right, guys, we got to talk about the news.
We got to get quick. Yep. let's go.
U.S. has just taken out #1 bad guy in the Middle East. I don't know.
Oh.
Maybe in the world. I don't know.
I thought you said Joe
that was
Biden. I was
a
like, what?
headline, wasn't it?
It is a headline. Qasem Soleimani, right? The United States
Yeah.
killed high-profile commander of Iran's secret Quds force with a drone strike in Iraq early Friday morning, according to the Department of Defense.
Yeah.
He was taken out with a drone. It was a drone strike. He was apparently on his way. He was in a car driving on his way to the airport, and
And they got him.
kaboom.
They tagged him.
Another man, Abu Mahdi al-Mohandes, is said to be the deputy of the militias known as the Popular Mobilization Units, and a close advisor to Soleimani, was also killed in an airstrike near Baghdad's airport, according to Iraqi television reports. The PMU tweeted that al-Mohandes and Soleimani were killed when their vehicle was hit on the road to the airport. If you guys don't know, Qasem Soleimani has been in control of Iran's Quds force.
Military.
Yeah, it's their special ops force,
Yeah.
basically.
For like 20 years.
For more than 20
Yeah.
years. His current greatest hits include
Ooh.
helping Bashar al-Assad
Wow.
in Syria
Yeah.
slaughter hundreds of thousands of his own people in the Syrian civil war,
Wow.
stoking the Houthis in Yemen's civil war,
Yeah.
and overseeing the killing of hundreds of Iraqi protesters recently demonstrating against Iranian influence in their country. So Iran has been infiltrating Iraq,
Yeah.
and Soleimani has been instrumental in suppressing the resistance
Yeah.
to Iranian infiltration of Iraq.
Right.
He's kind of been the main guy in a lot of that.
And really importantly for Americans, Soleimani was behind the deaths of hundreds of American soldiers during the Iraqi war.
Right.
Hundreds of soldiers.
And even recently, I don't know if you read this, but even recently, he's apparently responsible for some of the killings, like last week or 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
with a private contractor, U.S. contractor, and some military.
So remember, I covered this in one of our daily news briefs, which we're doing now.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Daily news briefs.
Wake up every
Gabe
day
and
to-
I are tag teaming this if we can keep our days straight. But I'm talking about there was a protest outside the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad
Right.
Last week that was quickly put down, but it was the protesters, or the New York Times tweeted out that they were mourners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because of airstrikes.
Yeah.
Well, Soleimani was behind a number of attacks on bases and places where there are U.S. people.
Right.
They
Troops
were
and contractors.
Yep.
Yep.
and businessmen, and they were targeting them because they were U.S.
Yeah.
and
Right.
a particular business contractor had been killed.
Yep.
And it was Iranian-backed people. I mean, these protesters were actually Iranian militiamen.
Yeah.
Basically.
And they probably were mourning. Just for the record.
They were probably sad.
They were probably sad.
Yeah.
But the U.S. State Department put the number of Americans killed by the Iranian proxies run by Soleimani at 608 Americans killed
Okay.
by his work since 2003. Trump hasn't responded officially yet as of here Friday morning as our recording,
He's responded. but
he did tweet American flag out. That was his response.
That was it.
American flag.
That was it.
Everybody knows what that means. Also,
He doesn't need a marketing department.
but he knows what he's doing.
He got it. He got it.
The Department of Defense, though, did put out a statement. It says, at the direction of the president, the U.S. military has taken decisive defensive action to protect U.S. personnel abroad by killing Qasem Soleimani, the head of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Quds Force, a U.S. designated foreign terrorist organization. So it's been designated a foreign terrorist organization. General Soleimani was actively developing plans to attack American diplomats and service members in Iraq and throughout the region.
Right.
General Soleimani and his Quds force were responsible for the deaths of hundreds of American and coalition service members and the wounding of thousands more. He had orchestrated attacks on coalition bases in Iraq over the last several months, including the attack on December 27th, culminating in the death and wounding of an additional American and Iraqi personnel. General Soleimani also approved the attacks on the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad that took place this last week.
Yeah.
The strike was aimed at deterring future Iranian attack plans. The United States will continue to take all necessary action to protect our people and our interests wherever they are around the world.
Okay, question.
This is where I was going to go.
Question. If Iran...
Raise your hand. Chocolate Knox.
Yeah. If Iran had a bad guy over in America...
In America.
You mean Iraq?
Iraq. Iraq. If Iraq had a bad guy...
But it's all connected.
Wait, hold on. Are we talking about Iran or Iraq? They're two different countries.
No, but it's all connected. He's doing this in Iraq.
Right. Okay.
So let's say but he was in Iran when this happened, right?
No, he's in Iraq.
He was in Iraq. Okay. So let's say that they have a bad guy over here in America, right?
Yeah.
They want to get to that bad guy because he's been attacking people who are their citizens here in America.
Yeah.
And they want to get to him. They fly a drone to America's airspace, send out a missile and kill him on the way to LAX.
The
You're talking about an American?
No. Iranian.
An Iranian or Iraqian.
Drone. Iraqi. Well, I just repeated what he said. Drone.
I'm sorry, I'm confused.
2022. I'm just saying.
Two different countries, Iran and Iraq.
Yeah. So which one is he from? Which one is
Iran?
Iran. So let's say Iran.
So he's been infiltrating Iraq.
Yes. Okay, so, but let's say that Iran or Iraq, pick one, okay? They fly a drone, kill.
They all look the same? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're
I'm saying any other country.
Okay.
Any other country.
Any other country.
Flies a drone into America to kill one of their bad guys.
Yeah.
How well is that going to go over with us?
Oh, it's not going to go well.
At all.
Right.
But here's
and so
go ahead.
It's
finish, Knox. You're losing me.
But I don't think
no. What I'm saying is that look, I know this is a bad guy, and I think that he probably needs to die, and he's done some things even recently that require him to be dealt with. And I get that there's complications between Iran and Iraq to be able to get their military or their police, whoever it is, their country to deal with this guy.
Yeah.
And so I get all that. Yet at the same time, isn't there grounds and guidelines in which we should be engaging this, as I think biblically about this?
Are you asking, should we have asked Iraq's permission to do that?
I'm wondering when we talk about going through a process of doing things, how much of that process did we go about doing before we just dropped the bomb?
Well, I think there is that question, and I think it's important.
And why if we did do that, was it say, okay, why wouldn't we put pressure on those governments, which we do have the ability to do, and say, bring us his head?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a place
bring
for
us
that.
his head. And if you don't bring us his head,
then
now we have a different kind of problem. But just to fly a drone into another country next to their airport, because if somebody did that to us, it would be game over.
We have drones over their country every day, constantly.
That's another point.
But I think it's different when you've been babysitting a country.
Are we actively at war?
That is true.
We've been babysitting Iraq.
No, we have not declared. Congress has not declared war.
Just keep walking back the problem because it gets worse.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I know.
Right? Congress hasn't declared war since what? World War II?
I don't even know.
I think Congress
or is it Korea?
No, I think it was World War II is the last time Congress officially declared war, I think.
Okay.
It's been, whatever it is, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
And we haven't been practicing this under Obama, under Bush, under Clinton, under Bush.
What'd you say about Obama's drone strikes?
He was like drone king or something.
I forget. He has a nickname for being like the most drone strike president to date.
Obama?
Yes.
Yeah. But here's the thing is Trump. So Trump is, it seems like to me, his military foreign policy is to get as many troops out and then just do pinpoint strikes on problem people and problem areas.
We just ordered a number of troops into Kuwait.
Right. No, he did now because of all the stuff that's going to happen with the results of the fallout of this Iraq-Iran thing.
Right.
But it just seems like, which makes me kind of really nervous because Congress hasn't declared war, and then we're just doing, what evidence are we gathering? If we're doing drone strikes, are we gathering evidence?
But we did 7 drone strikes. We've done a number of drone strikes in the last few weeks.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
And so
this
only reason this is hitting the news is because it's a big name target.
Right.
Well, and why are liberals freaking out about it?
Right today. Well, because the professed reason is because of the fear of Iranian war.
Well, that and they trying to tag Trump with some sort of Benghazi.
The other reason is because Orange Man bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So anything that Trump does is bad by definition.
Yeah.
But I would say a number of them at least have some consistency in saying we don't want war with Iran.
Yeah.
Right.
We don't want war, and you strike one of the leaders of their, one of their top generals.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a call to war.
Yeah.
And it seems like some of the locals, in one sense or another, are happy about what has happened. Yet at the same time, they're afraid because we should have figured this out with Saddam.
Right.
When you remove somebody like this, a position of power, you open up a vacuum. What's going to fill that?
Yeah, and so the question is what is going to fill that?
Yeah.
And I think there's a real question mark over because there have been protests in Iran against the regime there, the Islamic regime.
Yeah.
There have been protests in Iraq against the Iranian intrusions.
Right.
There were Mike Pompeo, the
Secretary of State,
tweeted out a video of apparently celebrations in the streets in Baghdad over this.
Yeah.
I was following a few Twitter feeds last night of Persian Iranian Americans, immigrants, and they were saying that all the words they're hearing from their family and friends was relief and celebration. But I don't think that's the only thing.
But they did the same thing with Saddam. I mean, this is like Hydra. We should know this over there.
Yeah,
we cut off one head of the snake, and then there's always another bad guy who wants to outdo the last bad guy.
Right. No, I agree. It's a minefield.
And I'm not saying that he shouldn't have gotten.
Right.
I'm just saying that maybe we can think about other ways to figure out how to not create the last situations we've been creating.
Yeah.
And again,
one other point I want to make here before we go out
is
Obama was giving billions of dollars to Iraq, making a nuclear
that's not
deal.
the way either.
And Iran.
And Iran. So Obama was snuggling
up.
They
made the Iran treaty thing, right?
I forget what it's called.
Nuclear deal or whatever.
So Obama's snuggling up to Iraq and Iran. And
you said snuggling?
Snuggling, basically. And the liberals are all like, yeah. Trump snuggles up to North Korea, Kim Jong-un. Right, and tries to be friendly. Tried. No, they're still working whatever's going on over there. And then Trump has a strong stance with Iraq and Iran, and the liberals are freaking out. So they're like, hey, he's being friendly to Kim Jong-un, but then now he's being mean against Iraq and Iran. And there's something. I think there's something more going on
politics,
there.
There's a big politics.
Exactly.
And the thing that Christians need to watch out for is there's a bunch of politics surrounding all this, and then but we really do need to ask the deeper questions of what is biblical justice?
That's what I want.
What is just war?
What is just war?
Is there just droning theory?
I think there is.
Of course.
But I also think that part of learning biblical wisdom is first lay down all the principles of justice.
Yeah.
And you have to have those down.
Yeah.
You really have to have those down.
You do.
But then on top of that, you can't have a simplistic application of those principles.
Because life is complicated.
It takes biblical wisdom. And sometimes I would say you chop off one of the heads of the Hydra because that's the best you can do in the moment.
Yeah, sure.
And other times you don't. And other times you use a different play.
But all we've done is that for the most part.
Well, I think the last 8 years though with Obama, we were pretending not to do that.
We were feeding Hydra.
We were feeding Hydra and
bombing them
occasionally bombing stuff too in a random way.
That's right.
I don't know. LAPD, interestingly enough, tweeted out last night, while there's no credible threat to Los Angeles, the LAPD is monitoring the events developing in Iran. We will continue to communicate with the state, local, federal, and international law enforcement partners regarding any significant intel that may develop.
Thank you, LAPD.
The Mayor Blasio in New York
out the same thing.
Said the same thing about the New York City PD. And of course, on the surface, like 9/11 happened.
I get it.
Right?
Yeah.
But I think this is also a little bit played up.
I just don't remember them doing any of that under Obama.
Yeah, right. When
all the drone strikes.
Who took out Osama?
It was
Obama.
It was
That's Obama.
Well, I mean, it was under Obama.
Yeah,
but let's be honest.
I don't even know what that means. But
wasn't it the dog? What's his name?
He just got in the office.
Did
man.
LAPD and New York City NYPD, did they tweet out things
No.
that don't worry, we're taking care of
No, no,
security
no.
now that he took out Osama
No, they
bin
were
Laden?
praising him. See, y'all thought he was going to be
Trump's
a punk.
not going to protect you, but we will.
Yeah,
So
that's-
Hunger Games 2020 here real quick.
All right.
A quick update. First, Castro is out. Not Fidel.
Oh, because I
Not
said he's
Fidel.
been out for a long time.
Julian.
His spirit lives on.
Castro's out.
Julian Castro's out.
He's out. He said it's not feasible anymore. It never was. Just a, but this last quarter fundraising I find pretty interesting.
Okay.
Pinko Pete, he got $24 million in the quarter fundraising.
So last quarter of 2019,
Yeah,
yeah, 24 million.
$24 million.
That's quite a bit.
That's
a lot.
for being so he might now be the leading in Iowa, and he's competitive in New Hampshire, which is interesting. So, anyways, and then Sanders raised about $34 million.
Bernie did.
34.
Bernie in a quarter.
Yeah.
Donald Trump raised $46 million. So he kicked them all, and then Biden barely snuck in $22 million.
Well, that's still a lot.
Barely.
But that's a lot of
But
money.
that's still a lot of money.
It is, but he is supposed to be
As
the
a-
front runner.
Well, front
Okay,
runners can do
and
that.
he's had some bad quarters, so his last quarter was actually his best quarter, I think, so far.
Compare this,
But-
though. Compare fourth quarter fundraising in 2003. So right before the 2004.
17 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, this would be Bush and Kerry, wouldn't it be?
Yeah. Yeah. Compare this, though, just for fun. For
Okay.
kicks and giggles,
Okay.
as they
Okay.
say.
Okay.
Howard Dean raised 16 million. Remember him? Oh, that's the end of our thing.
That's funny.
16 million.
Uh-huh.
He
Yeah.
had the highest number at the end of the fourth quarter. That's the most anybody raised in the Democratic field. 16 million. Less than all of these people. And of course, you got inflation and stuff. But Wesley Clark,
Who?
remember him? Raised 10.3 million.
Don't even remember that guy.
Runner up. Nobody knows Wesley Clark.
No.
No.
And I'm just saying, like, it could be that in 17 years, nobody knows who Pete Buttigieg is,
Yeah, no, it's true.
even though he got 24 million.
Yeah.
John Kerry, who got the nomination that year,
Yeah, who went against
raised
Bush.
only 5.2 million.
Wow.
He was married to the Hines lady, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think
And
so.
2.9 million of that was a loan from his own mortgage on his house.
I thought you were going to say loan from his wife.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying, the numbers are fun and interesting.
It doesn't really mean anything.
But
though.
I don't think they tell us as much as people want them. I think people need news.
Well,
Gabe just needs something to talk about.
Well, it is interesting. There's a lot of money floating over there. And if people want to burn money, they can sign up for club memberships.
Yeah, hey, Cross Politics Club membership. Come on, man.
We can figure out how to burn that money to do things
I have
that
a
better.
feeling, though, the people that are giving to Pinko Pete and Sanders and Biden are probably not interested in signing up for club memberships.
But if they just want to see what their money does,
They just want to burn money.
But you know what? I can't understand why somebody would give their money to somebody like Bernie Sanders, knowing that he doesn't have a chance to win the nomination.
Yeah.
He really doesn't.
Yeah.
You know.
I think Bernie Sanders is an Overton window phenomenon.
What do you mean by that?
You remember we talked to Pastor Doug about the Overton window?
Yeah.
With
No quarter November.
No quarter November.
Overton, yeah.
On the conservative side, the Overton window is the idea of this sort of what is acceptable discourse in society. What are a range of acceptable views? What's considered, and then on either end, what's considered extreme. And people push extremes in order to push that Overton window in a particular direction.
That's right.
Which is why, 100 years ago, somebody saying that, sodomy was an abomination out loud in public, everybody would have said, well, of course.
Yep, right.
And that's why we have laws against it.
Yeah.
And now you say that out loud.
Now
and,
you can't even say gay says sin.
and you're going to get prosecuted for
Right.
hate crimes.
That's
I
right.
think Sanders is a leftist, socialist Overton window
absolutely.
pusher.
But isn't the whole
That's good.
left an Overton window?
Well, they're getting that. Yeah.
Bob Fu up next on Cross Politic, ChinaAid.org. You do not want to miss this interview. More Cross Politic when we come back. Yeah, the whole left is like an Overton window. It's like 120 million at least is moving on.
But like Pico Pete.
Can the window go any further over?
He looks moderate.
Americans have been traveling down the health insurance highway for decades. But lately, it's been taking us to places we don't want to go. For Christians, it's hard to know which road to take. Or is it? Samaritan Ministries provides a different direction, a biblical path for their members to pray for each other and share financially in each other's medical needs.
This idea that Samaritan has adopted from the book of Acts should permeate all parts of our lives, not just health sharing. We, as a body of believers, are living out New Testament Christianity. This is what God intended for the church.
Do you believe that you need an insurance company, or do you believe that God will provide your needs? And there are people that you've never met before who are going to pray for you and meet your needs. There's another way.
Looking for a new direction for your healthcare? Visit us online at SamaritanMinistries.org.
Good old Texan here. Oh, brother.
You would think I was ready for that.
Oh, brother. Hey, welcome back to Cross Politic.
You hadn't did that since last year.
On the Fight Laugh Feast Network, we are grateful to be coming at you today with a fantastic guest. He is from Texas.
Amen.
Yeah, he is. I just wanted to get that out of the way. Can we just get that out of the way? All right.
Okay.
Bob Fu, or Shi Chu
Yeah.
Fu,
Yeah, that's right.
graduated from the School of International Relations at the People's University in Beijing and taught English to Communist Party officials at the Beijing Administrative College and Beijing Party School of the Chinese Communist Party from 1993 to 1996. Mr. Fu was also a house church leader in Beijing until he and his wife Heidi were imprisoned for 2 months for illegal evangelism in 1996.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Illegal evangelism.
I've never heard of
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Bob and Heidi fled to the United States as religious refugees in 1997 and subsequently founded China Aid in 2002 to bring international attention to China's gross human rights violations and to promote religious freedom and the rule of law in China. As president of China Aid, Fu has testified before the Congressional Tom Lantos Human Rights Commission, the House Foreign Affairs Committee, the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, the European Commission and European Union Parliament, and Cross Politics Studios.
Wow.
Hey.
That's
Fu
amazing.
also regularly briefs the State Department. And in 2008, Fu was invited to the White House to brief President George W. Bush on religious freedom and human rights in China. Bob Fu graduated with a PhD from St. John's College at the University of Durham in the UK in the field of religious freedom. He also graduated from Westminster Theological Seminary in Philadelphia.
Wow.
So he's
WTS.
He's pretty much graduated from everywhere, and he's a master of everything. So, Mr. Fu, thank you so much for joining us on Cross Politic.
Thank you, except I'm not a master of Kung Fu, as I wish to.
Oh yeah, right. I should have. Yeah, that's good. He's done this before.
Masters in puns,
Yeah.
too.
So you've been giving briefs to the State Department to the EU and so on. We need to get a brief from you here today on Cross Politic on what's been going on. Particularly, we wanted to ask you about Pastor Wang Yi, and he's the pastor of Early Rain Covenant Church. He was recently sentenced to 9 years. I'm sure you've been following this. What's been going on, and can you fill us in from your perspective on the situation there?
Thank you. First of all, Happy New Year to you all and to the
Thank you.
listeners of Cross Politics. It's really an honor for me on the right after New Year to be with you on this program. The harsh sentence of peaceful preacher and the house church leader, Pastor Wang Yi, who is a very close friend of mine since 2006. He, on the New Year's Eve, December 30th, after secret trial on the post-Christmas on December 26th, with no family member allowed to be there, no lawyers was even allowed to be representing him, except the government arranged legal representatives. And on the simply trumped charges of so-called inciting the subversion of state power and the so-called illegal business management, based on his sermons and his leadership in the church, like printing some Christian literatures in the unofficial church that he has been leading, is astonishing. I mean, this is really the confirmation, or you can see the kind of true representation of the face of the Chinese evil regime and its so-called religious freedom record. And Pastor Wang Yi is actually the first Chinese independent house church pastor ever who received the charge and indictment on the name of inciting the subversion of state power.
Huh.
And the only piece of evidence was one of his sermons. On a Sunday, he was preaching a message of repentance based on the gospel, and he uttered the sentence by saying, even President Xi Jinping, the current Communist Party leader and dictator, needs to repent for persecuting God's church. Otherwise, he will be perished too, according to the Bible. That is the inciting subversion of state power for 9 years imprisonment.
Wow, calling the president to repentance.
Yeah. Wow. Now,
yes.
The idea of being a pastor of a house church, I think maybe you can help our listeners, our audience understand there is an organized, government-recognized church sort of movement called the Three Self movement. And if you're not part of that, you're considered a house church merely if you're not under the government-sponsored church. Is that right?
Yes, pretty right. So he, under the communist system, in 1953, when Chairman Mao, sent the Chinese military to Korea, launched the Korea War with the Americans, and the so-called Three Self patriotic movement was established among the government-sanctioned churches. It's initially actually called the Anti-America Aiding Korea Three Self Patriotic Movement of Christians.
Huh.
So that was officially the organization was launched under the direct leadership of the top Chinese Communist Party leaders.
Right.
So the organization was established with the sole purpose is to use the Christianity as an organization and to destroy Christianity under communism and socialism.
Right. Right.
So on the surface, the Communist Party allow the existence of 5 so-called patriotic religious organizations on Buddhism, Taoism, Islam, and the Catholicism and Protestantism is represented by this Three Self Patriotic Movement organization. So if you are registered and willingly to be controlled totally by the Chinese Communist Party, then you are supposedly to be protected and legally supported. But outside that is what we call the house churches, because most of the Chinese Christians worship in these house churches, and they are declared as illegal in their legal status.
This is just like first century.
So that's the fundamental difference.
Yeah. This is just like the first century church, where Christians, the reason why they were persecuted is because they had no king but Jesus, and they, Rome was happy with all the religions, but once Christianity
as long as they submitted to Rome,
they submitted under Caesar.
Yeah.
But because King Jesus challenged Caesar, said he was over Caesar.
Caesar had to repent.
That's right. And Caesar had to repent. This is what got Christians persecuted.
So the fundamental difference is the lordship of Christ. Who is the true Lord of the church? Communist Party or Communist Party leader or President Xi Jinping or Jesus Christ.
One of the things that's been actually helpful, if you listen to or read some of Pastor Wang Yi's statements and sermons and so on, he's very, very careful and clear, acknowledging that civil magistrates have true authority. His
and to submit to them. He's very clear about that.
And that God establishes those authorities, and so Christians ought to and must submit to them. But the thing where he is running right into them is he's saying, but you are not over the church.
Well,
you do not have authority over the church.
And who those authorities are to submit to.
Sure. Well, and they ultimately have to submit to Jesus themselves.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. So when the authorities trespass their legitimacy by trying to exercise its kind of the lordship over the church, they crossed the line. I think that's Pastor Wang Yi was even, in his declaration of even the civil disobedience to the new regulation on religious affairs. He declared that, yes, he's willing for the sake of the gospel to disobey this evil law, but at the same time, he's willing even take the suffering by this civil disobedience.
Right.
So acknowledging this, their civil authority.
So Trump's administration has actually put out some statements about the harsh sentencing of Pompeo.
The State Department.
The State Department's also done some stuff. Is our administration going to put any further pressure on the Chinese government to release Pastor Wang Yi?
I have no doubt about it. I mean, this administration, according to my experience, compared to the last three administrations that I had dealt with, is the most active administration in the presidential, vice presidential, secretary of state level on promoting religious freedom globally.
Wow.
The most active one.
Wow.
So he beats out Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Obama.
Oh, yes, all three.
Wow.
And I have seen with first-hand experience how active even President Trump made a very bold decision from the Oval Office in like 10 days after he took he sworn in as president by rescuing a fellow human rights lawyer's family from China, and the mother and the two children who were even kidnapped after they escaped to Thailand. And it was President Trump's decision from the Oval Office to order the U.S. All the assets in Southeast Asia and rescued this family in Texas.
Wow.
So I have this personal experience, and certainly, Vice President Pence, repeatedly in the most high-level meetings from the UN and to public conferences, mentioned Pastor Wang Yi's name.
Wow.
And asked China to release him. So that's before his sentence in the past year.
One of the things that is really difficult, especially for Christians in America, to stomach is watching our brothers go through this, and all we can do is see it and share it on Facebook and Twitter and talk about it. Outside of praying, is there anything else we can do, or how can we help right now?
Yeah, that's a very good question. We outside the prayers, what kind of prayerful specific actions we can take?
Yeah,
I think certainly our elected representatives, officials, can put further pressure, especially using the existing sanction tools. President Trump signed several laws, and including the law called the Global Human Rights Accountability, Global Magnitsky Act on Human Rights and Accountability, and Frank Wolf International Religious Freedom Act. According to these laws, and the perpetrators, those persecutors, is supposed to be held accountable with the various sanctions, including revoke their visas from entering into the U.S., freeze the assets of those persecutors.
Yeah.
Most Communist Party officials, they have their concubines, they have the lovers, they have the family members, children, and major trillions of dollars transferred into the U.S., hiding.
Wow.
So if you if we do a little bit on them, you will see their evil will be restrained.
Wow.
And certainly, we should call, repeatedly for the business communities. When they trade with China, and the religious freedom and the persecution of our fellow brothers and sisters
Yep.
should be on the top, agenda.
Yeah.
And tell their Chinese counterparts that, as long as you're persecuting our brothers and sisters, we can't have good conscience to treat with those who are setting up labor camps or concentration camps.
Right.
So I think there are a lot of tools and venues we can do to improve.
So you just touched on this. Trump is fixing this. It sounds like he's fixing to sign a trade deal. The word "fixing" is a Texas word.
Yeah,
by the
yeah.
way, you guess
I
it?
figured by
So
what
he understands.
Yeah. So Trump is fixing to sign a trade deal with China. I think like January 15th or something.
Yeah.
Really.
He said phase one is going to
phase
get
one.
signed.
How is that going to impact situations like Pastor Wang Yi and what's going on in China?
I'm, of course, concerned that, without a very clear message on the agenda, kind of a parallel with the trade negotiation on addressing this grave, religious persecution. I mean, under this Chinese dictator, President Xi, China's religious persecution has fallen to the worst that since the beginning of Cultural Revolution.
Right.
That's in 40 years.
Right.
And so nobody should turn a blind eye. I mean, I'm not against trade, right? I mean, business relationship.
Sure.
And it's really a very hard situation already after former President Bill Clinton lobbied Congress and make China enter into the WTO and give China the most favored nation. And under then Secretary Hillary Clinton, there's a delink, purposely delink between the human rights and trade and economics.
Wow.
So Chinese, communist regime was popped up actually, by our free world and the appeasement policies.
Yeah.
So it's almost too big a tiger now to control by cutting off the whole trade relationship, right? I mean, you go to Walmart, right? How many items are not
China.
made in China?
Yes,
right.
Right.
You can find.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is that there are a lot of products were even made by the hands of our brothers and sisters in labor camps,
Wow.
in prisons, like Pastor Wang Yi,
Wow.
like many other Christians. And there's 1 million, Uyghurs, ethnic minority, predominantly Muslims in West China, are in the concentration camps.
Yeah.
They are making like soccer balls for the world soccer ball game, and to the cotton things of the clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's documented. So I think, when President Trump, I hope and pray, and that when President Trump signed this deal on January 15th in the White House, this human rights, religious freedom agenda won't be pushed on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know, from the senior administration officials that, including when I met with Vice President Pence in his office, he made a commitment that religious freedom is the most foreign policy agenda in this administration. So I will count his word on this.
Yeah.
And we
So
hope
Bob,
that this will happen.
yeah, Bob, why has religious persecution been intensifying in China under President Xi? Is it? Do you think God's doing something there? Do you think China's fixing to explode with the gospel? I mean, why is persecution intensifying?
From the spiritual perspective, certainly God is in a total sovereignty and laughing the persecutors by, even in the midst of or despite of the suffering and the persecution, the church has become the fastest growing church really since the time of Adam. That's what I was when Communist Party took power, the number of Chinese Christians is barely 1 million, less than 1 million Christians after 1.5 centuries, blood and sweat by the foreign missionaries and, many even martyred in China.
Yeah.
And, but after nonstop persecution in the past 70 years, do you know how many Christians are now estimated with the kind of most trustworthy number is today, the number of Chinese Christians, according to a sociologist from Purdue University of Indiana, and the number has reached to at least 116 million.
Wow.
After 116
That's more
million.
than in the U.S.
That's more than a third of the U.S. Population. And by 2030, the projection is China will host the largest Christian population among every nation
Wow.
on this earth.
Wow.
So the number will reach to at least 224 million
Wow.
in 2030.
One of the other.
And so, persecution will never really stop the church growth.
No.
But because the President Xi, on the conventional wisdom, this guy is nicknamed as the Chairman Mao Jr., or they called him Hitler, like the use of Hitler.
Like
President Xi Jinping.
Hitler? Is that what you're saying? Hitler?
They use the first two alphabets of his first last name, Xi,
Yeah.
and then add to Tiller. So it's
Chitler.
Chitler. Yeah.
Cheatler.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Hitler, yeah.
Wow.
So one of the other things.
he decided to.
One of the things going.
China to a left turn.
Yeah, one of the other things going on in the news right now has been the Hong Kong protests since last June. Can you fill us in from your perspective? What's going on with that, and how is that connected to all of this, if at all?
Yes, in 1984, the Chinese Communist leader signed a declaration between China and the United Kingdom, a joint communique, and with registered in the UN, made a commitment. China, at least in 50 years after Hong Kong was handed over to China since 1997, Hong Kong should keep as a so-called one country, two systems, which means Hong Kong should remain as a capitalist city with the kind of basic freedoms and rule of law guaranteed.
Right.
But as you know, the Communist Party, under this, especially this regime, President Xi has lost patience, and they are hurrying up to make it one country, one system. It's the communist system. And the 6 months ago, they forced the Hong Kong legislature to take a bill called the extradition bill. According to that bill, anyone, including Americans or travelers to Hong Kong and the Hong Kong citizens, could face extradition if they are even suspected of national security crimes. So that prompted the massive protests of, up to 3 million people on one day took to the street. You remember?
Yes.
And on the New Year's Day, over 1 million, another 1 million on New Year's Day in 2020 took to the street.
Yep.
And instead of really, listening to the democratic voices, the Hong Kong government and the Chinese Communist Party sent these secret agents, using absolutely excessive violence. Even real bullets. This journalist lost a right eye, from Indonesia, because the rubber bullets hit her. And you have, in the past 6 months, at least 7,000 were arrested from 83 years old to 12 years old. 83 years old to 12 years old. And many were extradited back to mainland China for tortured interrogation. In the past 6 months also, 3,000 were declared mysteriously suicide death. And end up in the river. Yes.
Wow.
So there is a massacre happening.
Wow.
Yeah.
And one of the things,
this is horrible.
one of the things we've seen on the news here and there, I mean, it's been not widespread, but here and there we've caught video clips of these protesters singing Christian hymns. And my question is how much of the Hong Kong protests is driven by Christians and a sense of the necessity for Christian freedom?
Yes, the Christian population in Hong Kong is about 15% some, but they have become the backbone, the real motivator, and really the stabilizer for the whole peaceful. I mean, for the whole protest from the start.
Yeah.
And you have, for the first time, many traditionally very apolitical kind of churches, conservative churches, who rarely participate in any political events and took to the streets, and because they feel the danger is coming, enough is enough.
Yeah.
And so that's why at one of the largest protesting day, that suddenly, simultaneously, the whole crowd on the street sing Hallelujah to the Lord. It became their first kind of Hong Kong protest anthem.
Yeah.
On the street.
Wow.
The whole street sing Hallelujah to the Lord.
Wow.
So there is something more powerful than just social protest.
Right.
So
All kinds is there.
Yeah.
So Bob, before we let you go, I just have to tie this all together. You really hit a nerve when you talked about earlier just businesses and how we can influence outside of just we got to pray, keep praying, pray for our brothers. That's the biggest thing. But the businesses and how we do business with China and what we're doing over there, how that influences whether or not our brothers can get out and what can actually protect them by the business that we do with trade with China. But when you see something like what happened with the NBA in Hong Kong and then the collar that was pulled from China on the NBA, if they brought you into a room to talk to the NBA and talk to NBA players, what would you have told them at that point, and how would you have guided them to react to what happened with the comments that were made concerning Hong Kong and the move that China put on there? How would you instruct them to act?
I would tell the NBA players or the owner of these clubs who are doing business in China, with their shows, that stand up, and speak up, and that take courage. Don't sell. Our freedom is not for sale, and so don't be intimidated. And the fact that the Chinese government has tried, and even in some ways successfully, to silence, some NBA players, and even make coerce these NBA players to even not only silent on the face of the evil in China, but also to side it with the Chinese government,
right.
Try to justify.
Right.
And that shows the long arm of the Chinese communists is not even ended in the China's border. It's already reached to Houston, to the Rocket team, to their players, to the owners. And so if that is not alarming to our very freedom, to our existence, our values, where can we finally wake up? I think, that's a real wake-up call.
Yeah.
Besides that, of course, we are Christians. We should also kind of try every way to empower and support the persecuted Christians. I mean, we at China Aid, we have a project we call the Sunday School in a Box. Basically, for the first time under communism, even last year, the Chinese Communist Party ordered all the Chinese Christian children to sign a Communist Party prepared form to renounce their faith. Wow. All the children.
Wow.
We are talking about millions of Chinese children with tears forced to sign a form to renounce Christ's name. Renounce their faith. So we built this project by, telling the communists, you don't want our children to accept the Bible. So we put a Bible player, a video Bible player with all the scriptures there, with the Pilgrim's Progress video, with Jesus movie, all uploaded there. It's $75 per packet with the children's Bible in one box. We want to deliver a box to every one of those persecuted Christian families. So that kind of thing will empower, the persecuted Christians will tell the persecuted that they're not forgotten, and will tell the persecutors, you cannot cut off our brothers and sisters in China from the free world.
Wow. That's good.
Bob Fu, ChinaAid.org. Are you on Twitter? Can we find you on Twitter too?
Yes, my Twitter is the Bob Fu #4 China.
All right. Hey, Bob, thank you for joining us, brother. We want to keep in touch with you. Keep us informed of what's going on, and hopefully we get a chance to talk again and get praise God for our brother getting out of jail. That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
Keep praying for our persecuted brothers and sisters. More Cross Politic when we come back.
Classical Conversations supports homeschooling parents by cultivating the love of learning through a Christian worldview in fellowship with other families. We provide a classical, Christ-centered curriculum, local, like-minded communities across the United States and in several countries, and we train parents who are striving to be great classical educators in the home. For more information and to get connected, please visit our website at classicalconversations.com. Classical, Christian, get connected, get community. Welcome back to Cross Politic.
Hey, Neil. Could you give me some water?
You're just going to do that right now?
Yeah.
Aren't you the water boy?
We just started recording and you're going to...
I'm thirsty.
Everybody say hi to Neil.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Everyone say hi to Neil. Hey, Neil.
Oh, man. Oh, gosh. Did you guys see this? You guys know who Rose McGowan is? Rose McGowan?
Yes.
She's an actress. I don't know. She had a brief... I don't know her... She's in...
Is that the one who killed her mother?
I don't know.
This is not what we discussed that we were going to talk about on this segment.
Oh, she's... I don't know. She's written a New York bestseller called Brave.
Oh, no, that's not her. Sorry, Rose.
She
Wrong
was
person.
a 4-part documentary series, Citizen Rose. She's been on the cover of a bunch of magazines. I don't know. Apparently, she was some magazines, Time Magazine Person of the Year in 2017 for speaking about sexual assault and harassment.
I barely remember 2019.
Anyways, that was 2017. Yeah. So, anyways, she tweets out, "Dear #Iran. The USA has disrespected your country, your flag, your people. 52% of us humbly apologize. We want peace with your nation. We are being held hostage by a terrorist regime. We do not know how to escape. Please do not kill us."
Oh, my
#
goodness.
Soleimani with a flag flying. The
Iranian flag. Oh, my goodness.
I just want to say that. While
we are being held hostage by a terrorist regime.
You can leave America.
We could go to war.
You can leave. You go to Canada right now.
We do not know how to escape.
Oh my goodness.
This girl doesn't know. And I mean,
I am trying to figure out some of the things that are happening. I don't agree in any way, nor did I want that to reflect my position at all.
Exactly.
Not at all.
Just this poor girl is not fully clothed either in her Twitter icon picture.
Okay.
And if she went to Iran like that,
she would be killed.
I don't think
she'd figure out what a terrorist regime
I think
really
she might kind of come to find out what a terrorist regime actually
Are you done?
is.
That's
Anyways,
Are you done?
I'm sorry, I was just distracted about this. But Bob Fu,
That was
wow.
really good.
I mean, talk about some sanity
Yeah.
in the middle of some insanity.
Yeah.
Right.
Pray for him. Pray for China.
The thing that really, like, I saw your lights go on and my lights, like, we were all, I don't know about you, Gabe. Do your lights? No, I'm kidding.
It's like the sun rising.
I'm sorry.
It's like the sun rising.
slowly but surely.
It comes.
No, but the line that hit me was when you asked the question, what can we do besides pray?
Yeah.
And he went to business.
Yeah.
He went to business and he says, talking about, I mean, all the things that are made in China.
Yeah.
And the fact that, and this tied in with the question about the trade deal as well.
Yeah.
But if you're a Christian businessman,
Yeah.
and you're getting stuff from China, how are you thinking about your brothers and sisters in China?
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean
who are making those products
Right.
in prison camps.
yeah, potentially.
Yeah.
Or are in some way supporting the anti-Christian regime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are concentration camps, there are these work camps, there's forced labor camps, I mean, all this stuff all over the country. And Christians being hauled off, separated from their families, put in detention centers, like Pastor Wang Yi. And he's asking Christians who buy things from China,
Who do business,
who
yeah.
do business with China, or sell things or trade things with China. Are you thinking about that? And are you thinking about how you can be a Christian in your business dealings
Yeah.
with China?
Yeah.
That's where
How you can influence.
Boom.
Yeah.
and like that's a thing. And we've been,
Yeah.
we talked about the NBA thing. I mean, that's one of the biggest places where the
NBA could have done something significant.
Chinese government's got the hooks in the NBA.
You
right.
talked about this. I got to jump in there because I want to make sure this is a part of the conversation. You
Yeah.
talked about who was it? It was Peter Hitchens' book, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that
The phony victory.
the phony victory. Yeah, we
Yeah.
were talking about that book, and you said that what can happen is that we can have a whole bunch of power,
Yeah.
and be hollowed out,
Yeah.
and no will to fight,
Yeah.
and no courage, right?
Yeah.
Peter Hitchens' book, The Phony Victory. I'm only like 50 pages into it so
I bought
far.
it last night.
But it's meat.
Yeah.
It's really good meat, and he's walking this fine line, and he sets it up in the introduction, I think, just really carefully and respectfully, where he's not trying to trash World War II, but it's an expose of World War II,
Yeah.
and a number of significant fumbles that were made, he believes,
Yeah.
especially leading up to the war.
Yeah.
And he thinks, and he lays it at the feet ultimately of certain. He's particularly talking about Britain.
Yeah.
We're talking about leaders of Britain who have this kind of old guard hubris and pride about the grandeur of Great Britain and the old empire, when in fact the actual power of the country has been hollowed out.
Yeah.
And now it's a setup. And so, the big particular place that he goes after is the whole debacle with Poland, and the way that Great Britain signs a treaty with Poland, promises to have their back.
Right.
And like 7 days later, I don't know, shortly, Hitler invades, and Great Britain does nothing. I think they technically declare war
Yeah.
and do nothing.
Send out a letter.
They're like, that's just really bad.
Hey, Hitler, could you please stop?
But
Don't
anyway,
do that.
But you're right, and immediately, and I maybe Hitchens is going to do this somewhere in the book, but specifically, then, I mean, actually, he does it in various ways, showing how that kind of that modus operandi, that way of doing business, bluffing and counting on a certain kind of prestige or view, has set up foreign policy blunders all the way to the present.
Right.
And including in the Middle East.
Yeah.
So the stuff we're talking about, the mess that we got ourselves into in Iraq and Kuwait and Syria and Iran and all this stuff, he says arguably stems from a certain set of assumptions and way of doing business going all the way back to World War II. Book is well worth your time. But the thing that really struck me was, I don't know that we're there quite yet.
Right. Well, some of our institutions are.
But we are currently
Our universities.
we are rotting out from the inside
Yeah.
right
That's
as
right.
we speak. I mean, the fact that we have women in the military,
Yep.
it was the fact that we're sending
Transgenders
our
in military.
daughters
Yep.
into war, homosexuals parading in the streets.
Yeah.
We are rotting out, and what will happen is you can have this facade that still looks powerful
Yep.
and glorious. But what happens is when the soul of a people is rotted out, they will no longer have the will.
That's right.
right.
They
To
have all the
fight.
power.
They can still have the
right.
guns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can still have the bombs. But if you
No
don't
will.
have the will,
Right.
if you don't have the spiritual reality
Yeah.
Right.
of courage
Right.
and believing in truth and goodness
Right.
and in
Yeah.
God
Beauty.
Right.
and beauty, all these things, you won't have the will to win.
I think the flip side of that is when you have will but no morality, you just kind of get anarchy.
But
on the flip side of that.
but I don't
Because
think it's
this-
really will.
No. And here's the deal. Like, this is going back to our talk with Hong Kong and with Pastor Fu.
He's not
He's not a
pastor.
pastor.
Any more than you're a pastor.
That's right. Bob Fu. But one of the things, too, if you look at the NBA, you got to remember the makeup of the NBA.
Yeah.
Okay. The NBA became the way that black people were able to make money for themselves and get
Yeah.
out of certain circumstances.
Sure.
And the NBA was predominantly white.
Yeah.
And just in a generation,
Yeah.
it changed drastically. 2 generations.
I'm going to pour some more of this cross-politic coffee.
Do that. You can find it at crestpolitic.com. And so now you got to remember the black people in America who were pushed aside, who were forgotten about, who were enslaved at one point in America, come into a position of some massive power as players in the NBA, who know what oppression looks like, who know what slavery looks like. And here they are now, hollowed out in one sense.
It's complicated.
And now here they are, have opportunity. To have opportunity now to stand up and say something on a global scale. And they didn't say anything. They walk back and let the hooks be pulled. I mean, that talk about being hollowed out and having will, but yet having power, but no will, no courage. That's exactly what's just happened.
And notice that, I mean, they have a form of will. And that's what I mean. When I say this to you, Gabe, is like they have a form of will. They say it's complicated. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to get into politics. But that will won't stand up to real evil.
But then they slaughter everybody who says that on their side of the conversation when it comes to social justice. So don't talk to me about it being complicated. You know, and so I don't believe you. Anyway, so I just want to put that in the narrative of what you were.
And here's another piece. I'll just bring another piece of this
and
pot.
We got a third one.
Yeah, here's another piece. So one of the things that Bob Fu pointed out in the interview was how previous administrations have handled China. And we brought this up when we were talking about the Soleimani stuff.
That was shocking.
Iraq and Iran. The previous administrations have predominantly focused on financial aid. Just send them lots of money, do a lot of trade, and stepping away from the human rights and religious freedom issues. But here's the thing.
In fact, inviting China to be part of the
World Trade Organization.
The World Trade Organization.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing to note, though, is that fits with a materialistic worldview. Okay, if you
humanism,
humanism. If in an evolutionary worldview, all we have are chemicals, which means that all we are, the significant things in life are all material conditions.
That's right.
And so, if you believe in that, if you believe in evolution, fundamentally, there's no God, there's no spirituality. It's all material reality. Then what you do to change people and change things is you have to mess with
materials,
the material circumstances.
Marxism.
And that's what is fundamentally Marxism is just the economics and social
of humanism,
work of humanism, of evolutionary Darwinian thought.
That's the foundation of it.
And so what the idea is, and I bet if you sat down Hillary Clinton, who gave tons of money or whatever to China,
or Margaret Thatcher, who signed the Hong Kong deal back in '84.
Right. Who was the guy? Who's the guy who's our buddy who's also spent some time in China, who we've interviewed a few times. He's from Idaho.
Oh, Steve Yates.
Steve Yates pointed this out as well. The theory is that if you somehow give them material comfort,
that's regeneration,
then they will be nice.
Or they'll become democratic.
That's what I mean.
Have a democracy.
They'll be good and nice, and they'll respect human rights because they're happy. And the reason why people are mean is because they've been deprived,
or they're poor, or they're
because
mistreated.
They don't have enough. And again, this connects to critical theory and all this stuff. It's why do people do things bad? Because they have a hard life. They've been oppressed. They don't have rights. And they've been mistreated.
They don't have access to health care.
And so you give them lots of money, you give them clothing, give them health care, give them all these things, and they will be good. It's regeneration by materialism.
Now, make the difference between that and how Christian businesses operate by not doing business with them based on how they operate. Because in the same sense, you're kind of are you doing the same thing when you say, I will retract my business if you don't do this?
No, it's because the difference is that's just a tactic. You understand that fundamentally what changes people is God has to give somebody a new heart.
Well, it's not, and it's ethically yours. Ethically, I can't do this. My conscience is pricked by this. It's not just a tactic; it's part of it. But the business owner himself,
the business
has
owner
a conscience.
is serving Christ. He is serving Christ when he does his business. And so, because you serve Christ, because you've been regenerated by the work of the Holy Spirit,
how you do
by
business,
the gospel, now flows out your fingertips. It flows out your checkbook. It flows out your business model.
That's right.
Well, also one of the other differences here is someone who's a Christian and has a great business, a great product. People are wanting to do business with that person, not just because he's got a great product. Oftentimes they're wanting to do business with him because I really like
honest.
that person.
He's honest,
right? Exactly.
Kind. He won't stab you in the back.
So the gospel's flowing through that whole process.
I just wanted to separate those two because I don't want to be.
But when I say tactic, though, but I just mean if you're dealing with non-Christians, and you're a Christian, your business dealings with that non-Christian. If you say, "Hey, I'll do this trade deal with you," or "I'll do this business deal with you," if you are not participating in any of the oppression of my brothers and sisters, that on itself is not going to save their souls. Is what I mean by tactic.
Right. No, that's what I wanted to make clear.
But what it is doing is being a witness.
Well, that's what, yes.
And it's saying, I stand with Jesus and I stand with Jesus' people.
So I won't.
So I won't do business with you if you're going to be using this business
Pastor Wang Yi
to crush my brothers and sisters. Now, in the process, they might say, well, why?
Right.
And then you might say, well, because Jesus is God in the flesh and he died and rose again for our sins.
This is his world.
Right. And this is his world. And in the process, they might come to Christ. But those economic tactics, business tactics, aren't themselves evangelism.
That's right.
That's just what I mean by tactic.
Yeah.
But in the process,
they flow out of gospel.
They're flowing out of your gospel commitment, and in the process, God may bless those things to bring real renewal. And in the short term, at least, it may put economic pressure on them to at least do good.
But I want to reiterate a little bit. There is a difference between a non-Christian trying to use that tactic and a Christian businessman trying to use that tactic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. You can't get past the economic problems there. You can't get past the human rights problems there if you're just some random non-Christian business.
What do you mean by can't get past?
Well, there's no impact from someone who's not a Christian. I mean, when you're a Christian, God sanctifies you in what you're doing.
Right.
God's there with you. He's sanctifying it. He's touching it, and you're very much in a different position than the person who's not a Christian. And let's say you even have the same business.
Sure.
You're both making trinkets or widgets or whatever.
Yeah.
But God is doing something very much different in the relationship of how that businessman's trying to do a deal with China than the non-Christian business and how he's trying to do a deal with China.
And I agree with that. I would just only add just that doesn't mean then, though, we don't care how the non-Christians do their business.
No.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would still want to use the rule of law and just Christian persuasion to try to still get even non-Christian business owners to say, look what they're doing to all the minorities and religious people in China.
But if a godly Christian businessman is doing that, that's going to be attractive for all the other non-Christian businesses.
One is done in faith, one is done in unbelief.
Exactly. and that is significant. It's
that
huge.
Is a huge point.
All right, guys, before we wrap this up, we need to go over the 2019 highlights of Cross Politic.
Okay.
Hey.
All right.
Because, it was a fun show. I mean, this has been an awesome blessing to do this. And
It's been fantastic.
And I think what we want to do is we want to thank God.
Amen.
With our audience.
Yeah.
For his blessing on 2019.
Yeah.
And so we went through, I mean, this is kind of just our favorites.
Yeah, let me look at that list real quick.
This is our favorites from 2019. We did 9 because, it's 2019.
19. And 9.
We're just,
There's a niner in there.
Are these in the order that we want?
I don't know that they're necessarily in order. I think these are in the order of sort of our biggest shows that seemed the most significant. It's a mixture, I think, of shows that were most popular with you all, / shows that were most
impactful to us.
Impactful to us.
Right.
And of course, there were tons of others along the way. Okay, so who's first? All right, I'm going.
Yeah.
Speaking of Peter Hitchens, we interviewed him on Brexit.
Yep.
Yes.
That was
that's probably one of the best downloads of Brexit that I had seen or been through.
And I had a lot of people follow up and say that they had been following the Brexit thing and had not heard such a cogent explanation as what they heard on our show, Peter Hitchens. Thank you, Peter Hitchens.
Yeah, I loved his analogy about the atrophied leg.
Yeah.
And how UK is to the point where that atrophied leg can't recover.
Yeah.
And I think that's scary.
Yeah.
To be in that situation.
It is.
To where your leadership has no ability to kind of gain strength because you've been so atrophied over time.
And the same thing can happen to us.
It is happening.
It's happening.
But here's the deal too.
Happening.
When you got to break the cast, you got to get that thing moving.
Right.
You just have to. Number 2 on the list is Shepherd Conference Q&A, the recap that we did with Pastor Doug Wilson.
Oh yeah.
That was
fire.
The beginning of understanding something is happening underneath.
Yep.
So remember, this is the Shepherd's Conference where Al Mohler was there, and
Todd Friel, our boy Todd.
No,
that wasn't Todd. That was Phil Johnson.
That was Phil Johnson.
Oh,
Mark
that's
Dever.
right. That's right.
You're thinking of the
Go Home.
Go Home.
That's a different one. Different conference.
That was actually a pretty big deal too.
Anyway, Phil Johnson was moderating.
Was pressing Al Mohler on some of the social justice questions,
right? And say,
and it got a little tense.
It was the first time. I don't think you ever see Al Mohler was in this position. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 1
Yeah.
right? And basically,
Wait. So tell it for our audio only listeners. What did you just do?
basically, when I sat back in my seat and acted like a don,
Like a boss.
like a boss, like a
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
and
Like-
he was
Like a Godfather.
I had never
Yeah.
seen him like that, and he basically did one of these moves to Phil.
Yeah, he's like-
and if you're on the street, and that's basically open up your arms like, what's
Let's
up?
go.
Let's
Yeah,
go.
let's go.
And if you're on the street, anybody knows what that means. I
Yeah.
don't care what language you speak.
Yeah.
I don't care what country you from. When you throw your arms open, like bring it here.
Yeah.
Boy, that's drama.
Anyways, DW, Doug Wilson, he had some
That was
good,
really good.
things to say
Yeah.
about
basically said
that.
that the fault lines have been drawn.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
walked through that with him.
Joseph Backholm,
Oh.
when we did the live show in Seattle
Yep.
at
Yes.
the Crisis King conference with our
Christ over
Christ
politics.
Over Politics conference, where he said, we asked him, what can we be doing? How can Christians
Make
be
an
getting
impact.
involved in politics? And he
Yeah.
said, just take 10 minutes a year.
Yeah.
He said
A year.
if Christians took 10 minutes a year
Yeah.
That's right.
to communicate with their leaders,
Yep.
their elected officials, about their priorities.
He said 9 minutes to communicate to your elected officials and 1 minute to vote.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's what he said.
he said,
Basically.
and he said that was the biggest problem
Yeah.
in America.
Yeah.
Like, why we are losing so much is
Right.
because Christians
Just basic discipleship
Yeah.
over, or should I say,
won't be involved.
management of what you God's stewardship
Yeah.
Right.
of what
10
God has
minutes.
given you.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
We got to
huge.
do that.
Okay. iPedophile on Amazon Prime.
Wow.
That show.
First of all, I never thought I would see a show on pedophilia looked at in a light that was
sympathetic.
sympathetic.
Basic-
On
basically
Amazon
what it-
Prime.
Yeah.
And that's when the lights came
Yeah.
on, at least for me, about what Vody talked about in his Gay is Not the New Black.
Right.
And he breaks out basically the strategy from After the Ball. It was two
Yep.
professors, I think, from Harvard
Something
or Princeton,
Yeah, yeah.
of Harvard. Anyway, that wrote a book on their strategy of how to take over or get sympathy in the 90s for homosexuality
Right.
and HIV, AIDS. Was
Right.
like
And he had 3 steps.
3 steps. It was desensitize, jamming, and conversion.
Yeah.
And he basically walks you through that and watching that
Yeah.
process of how they've controlled the narrative. And now the next thing up is pedophilia.
And we did-
that was the desensitizing part of it.
If you missed that show,
You need
go
to go
find
back
it.
and
We
watch it.
walked through it, taking Vody Bachum's work on After the Ball, those 3 steps,
Yeah.
and took little clips from iPedophile from Amazon Prime and showed
Yeah.
how that is happening now
Right.
with pedophilia.
Yeah. The Hong Kong protest is number 5 on the list.
That was with Steve Yates,
Yes.
our boy Steve Yates.
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
yep.
too. Yeah.
That's right.
And then just the whole NBA debacle with that.
Yeah.
You kind of talked about
That was a good
already.
show.
Yeah, it was
that
helpful
was
with Steve.
important. Also, social justice, critical theory, infiltrating conservative denominations. Was that one show, or was that like 10?
Several shows.
That was since January. After we went to the conference in Florida,
Right, the Founders
the
Conference.
Founders Conference in Florida, this just kept going throughout the
And
whole
of course,
year.
before that was the social justice statement.
Yep, that they start. Yeah,
That had
absolutely.
started. That was the previous year. Then they did the conference. But it seems like that's been a significant theme this year. And there have been a few shows where we've particularly focused on how it's infiltrating conservative denominations. The
Yeah.
PCA and the SBC are not immune to
Yeah.
these things. When,
Yeah.
when you have a GA, PCA General Assembly this last year, when you have Greg Johnson
Yes.
professing to be gay, a gay pastor on the floor of the General Assembly being applauded,
Right.
speaking in defense, against a particular, adopting the Nashville Statement, even though the Nashville Statement was actually barely, passed.
It was good enough to cause problems.
Yeah, but you have that, and then contrast that with our boy Steve Warhurst,
Yeah.
Pastor Steve Warhurst, PCA
Yeah.
pastor, who stood up to speak on behalf of a different resolution
Romans chapter 1.
and basically read Bible verses
Yeah.
in a calm manner,
Exactly.
yeah.
and was censured
Yeah.
afterwards, or the
They wanted to censor.
or the moderator was censured for letting him talk for
Right.
being immoderate.
Yeah.
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 Okay, yeah, that's all.
That's that. Talk
That's
about
it.
talk about an atrophying leg.
And then
You know what I'm saying?
and just by what standard, kind of all in the middle of that.
This year, we also talked about Drag Queen Story Hour, which it kind of became a thing.
Yeah, but the thing that hit me with this is what happened in Spokane. What
Right.
they're willing to do to protect
With a
their
sniper,
priestess.
with a sniper on the roof,
Priest. It would put a sniper on the roof
And
to stop a man from coming inside a library
and
to pray.
arresting a pastor.
Yeah.
Holding a Bible.
Holding about. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's telling you something.
This is
Yep.
tied to the whole Sohrab Ahmari and David French thing,
Conversation, yeah.
which is kind of in some ways sort of a proxy war of sorts.
Yeah.
I don't want to align myself particularly with those people or even make too many comments on that particular spat. But under that, there are tectonic plates moving in the conservative
Fault
world.
lines.
We saw this. We saw this more recently with the discussion over whether porn should be illegal or not.
Right.
A number of conservatives saying, of course, porn should be illegal.
Right.
And
then the more libertarian
and a
conservatives
bunch of conservatives saying, like, including Glenn Beck.
Yeah, which
That's
is
right.
Saying it should be legal, and this is how we celebrate our freedom, which is
that is
awful.
Maybe he doesn't understand
Horrible.
how freedom and liberty.
Well,
comes to it.
Mormonism messes people up.
Mike Sharrow. Mike Sharrow on Christian businesses and Christian involvement.
Yeah. We get on the phone with him, and he had just been in D.C. and he was talking. He was in San Antonio with the whole
weeks before
Chick-fil-A.
So we got him on the phone, and there's some interviews that I schedule where David and Pastor Toby are like, okay, why do we have this guy coming on? And then Mike just blew us out of the water. And one of the things that I think is connected to Joseph Backholm's point.
I was going to say that.
It was
where
connected.
Yeah, right. Where Mike Sharrow just said, hey, city council never hears from Christian businesses. Never. Zero. Zip. Zilch.
He was talking to people on the city council and explaining the Christian view of this. And the city council members were saying, thank you so much for calling and telling us. We didn't have any idea. The other thing that I took away from Mike Sharrow, though, was also his point about Christian businesses being Christian, leading
in the beginning
with their Christianity, and pointing out that that's actually not only is it just more direct and straightforward and faithful to Jesus. But he said legally it provides you with more protections.
Right. Yeah.
Because if you are Christian from the outset,
from the beginning,
and it's in your bylaws and it's how you do your business, then when somebody comes out as gay or trans or whatever, wants you to call you by some silly pronoun, and you say, sorry, we can't do that because we're a Christian business, it's harder for them to prosecute you in that.
You know who's figured this out?
What's that?
The Muslims in Dearborn, Michigan.
They
do all their business agreements and everything under
Sharia law.
Well, you know who had this figured out but doesn't anymore? Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A?
Is that what you want?
Instead of being sort of undercover and then one day saying, okay, that's too far.
Yeah, exactly.
Now that looks like bigotry because actually it kind of is.
It is.
If you're only Christian when you care enough, that's called bigotry, right? And they've got a point. If Christians hide it, so don't hide it. Lead with it. All right. Last thing, Chick-fil-A gives up the conservative charade. Last thing before you hit the music, book recommend. We keep forgetting to do this.
Puritan Hope.
This is my book recommend for this week. The Puritan Hope by Ian Murray, Revival and the Interpretation of Prophecy. You need to get this. Put it on your reading list for this year. Ian Murray is chronicling how the mainstream view of Puritans in the late 16th and 17th century was the victory of Christ over the nations. Including Spurgeon, later on, would be one of the heirs of this view. But believing that the spread of the gospel, the promise of the gospel is not getting darker and darker.
Right.
But it's actually getting lighter and lighter.
Amen.
That we have not yet seen the glories that are coming to those who trust in him. We die.
And China knows this.
And China knows
China is going through this
now.
now.
It's a threat.
Yeah.
It's a threat to all the kingdoms
100
of men.
million Christians?
And then China government knows that. They know
Anyways, get it. The Puritan Hope. Be a Puritan.
If we missed anything on the list and you want to make up your own 9, send them to us at where, Gabe?
Contact at fightlaughfeast.com.
If you're single, get married. If you're married, have kids. If you have kids, go baptize them. Until next week, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. Happy 2020. This is Cross Politics.